Well, just that first lockdown and having the kind of the first few days of it or the first few weeks of it and being kind of rudderless and trying to work out where you're how to deal with it, basically. And I suppose as a kind of creative person or a writer, you sort of have that added thing of trying to work out what you should be doing, what you should be writing. And I had other projects that I was trying to do and difficult to concentrate on. Then in the evenings, I'd write stuff about lockdown. And that was kind of, yeah, obviously much more sort of therapeutic and enjoyable. So I kind of cleared the decks and tried to get rid of everything else. And then just went, to be fair, quite deep state and just wrote about the lockdown from inside the lockdown.
And when you got to the end of where you thought you had stuff for a book and went back and looked at what you'd written, were you surprised at the evolution of your emotions over that time?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was writing poems, so the first kind of part of writing the book was just sort of documenting stuff that had happened during the lockdown and during the pandemic. But then I started writing conversations and kind of jotting down the conversations I was having, which is the other strand of the book. And so, yeah, there's something about when I've reread the book now with a bit of space behind it, there's something about the poems just kind of, setting out what happened in the lockdown and what was going on in March, April, May, June of last year. And then meanwhile, yes, a deterioration of my own sort of well-being. I mean, my sort of personal lockdown was, I mean, everyone has their kind of story or where they fit in. Mine was living on my own in a flat in lockdown. So it was kind of, I mean, I was sort of, ramping it up a bit. But yeah, a guy kind of trying to stay sane during lockdown is kind of the way that the story goes. And yeah, certainly in the story, I completely fall apart. I mean, in real life, ironically, I didn't fall apart because I was writing the story. I think that was what was happening. But I mean, with a bit more distance, I'll probably work out slightly more what was going on.
What happens when the lockdown ends? I mean, are you concerned at all that the creativity that you focused on during this time, you lose your muse almost?
Yeah, totally. It was a very kind of, I mean, once you embrace it and decide that that's what you're going to do, that you decide to forget about the fact that everyone will be writing about lockdown. Once you decide, yeah, I'm going to be one of those people, then it takes out an enormous part of the writing process where you're not trying to think of ideas and you're not trying to, come up with any spark of, originality or start to write something. It's just all there and it's all around you. So if you decide to sort of swim inside it all, then yeah, it's very useful. But I mean, I thought that at the end of the lockdown, and weirdly, there's another lockdown.
Yeah, exactly.
They keep on coming.
Do you think there's going to be the
But that's
market?
not what I don't. Sorry, I was going to say I don't want more and more lockdowns,
No.
so I can write more. But I would like an end to it. But yeah, there is a sort of silver lining where I kind of think, okay, I'm back in again. I'll keep on writing.
But are you worried that there'll be a market for this book? Because, most people, it seems, have really hated lockdown. Does anybody want to be reminded of this year? Is everyone going to? I mean, I think lockdown itself is a great time to enjoy poetry because you might have a bit of extra time to sit and go through books that you haven't had a chance to go through. But do you think in 5 years' time we're going to be saying, let's revisit that lockdown year?
No, I don't think so.
So you're not planning on paying off the mortgage with it?
No, there's no market for it. No, I don't know. Weirdly, it's out now, so people have bought it, and the main kind of people have been really nice about it. And obviously, because we're in an age where they can sort of contact you on social media, or you see it going up on social media. And I think people's reaction has been really nice. That they're kind of they do kind of feel. I totally agree. I wouldn't. I'd hate to watch anything about lockdown or read anything about lockdown at this point. But people have sort of. I don't know. It doesn't sort of. Obviously, it doesn't glamorize it, but I think people kind of can empathise with. This is just one person's route through it, and I don't think there's any sort of particular nostalgia about lockdown one. But I think there is something that's. I mean, it's so universal. Everyone went through it. And I mean, the fact it probably helps that the book is comedy. It's not trying to make any great political or social points. It's just kind of 300 pages of sort of madness. And I feel like because it doesn't really have too much pretension about it, maybe it's slightly more palatable.
Well, let's give viewers a taste of what's in the book. You're going to read for us one of the poems, Pile 'em High.
Oh, yeah. So this is in the period where people were sort of furious about groups meeting in parks and, all of that. So the parks got full. The government waved through a new policy, stacking. Now groups were allowed to assemble on top of one another. Up to 5 groups of 10 could stack like this. Park wardens enforced a strict 2-metre gap in between the stacks. Joggers weaved between the stacks and sometimes clambered over them. They'd rest on top of the revellers and drink cider before scrambling back down and jogging on once more, snorting, panting, slaloming between these government-sanctioned piles of irrepressible humanity. It's that kind of thing.
I love it. Very briefly, before we go, in the book, you also write a love poem to a girl, and you say that you can do things in books that you can't do in real life. You might put your head in your hands. Have you had the courage to do it in real life? Have you written to her? Come on.
You got to read the book. It's or the follow-up. It's a sort of the whole book is kind of a mixture of autobiography and complete fiction. So, you read the book, you tell me where that fits in. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, can I just say quickly before we? I want to just mention my designer, because the book is a real collaboration between me and my designer, Emily Juniper. And that's all of the feedback has been very little about what's been inside it, but just saying it looks beautiful, which I agree with, but it's obviously quite...
it's beautifully set out. Well, Tim, it's been lovely to talk to you. Best of luck with your love life.
You too.
Good to see you.